Happy Good Friday, everyone, and I'm glad you could be here with me. And so, whether you are watching this live or watching a replay, I'm just grateful one way or the other that you're here spending some of your time with me. So, let's make this time that we spend together productive and delicious. It is Easter. Now, I'm not doing Easter chocolate because chocolate is kind of a dangerous thing for me. So what I am going to do instead is an Easter lemon cream pie. So I could do lemon meringue, but I decided this time we're going to do lemon cream and we're going to have some fun and it's going to be delicious. I've got my Easter apron on, so that's awesome. And look at what I was just brought. This beautiful purple mom my husband just got me for Easter. And so how lucky am I? So we are just going to set that over there because I'm pretty sure that we don't need any of our deliciousness that we're going to create on top of my mom's. And those are going to be beautiful all year. I'm going to be able to plant them outside. Now, the very first thing that we need to create this dessert, and it's going to take a while to cook, so we got to be on top of things here, is we need sweetened condensed milk. Now, sweetened condensed milk in the grocery store, hi Del, is not keto friendly. It just isn't. It is absolutely full of sugar. It's made with milk that's full of lactose, and there's just nothing good about it. Now, there are all kinds of recipes online that you can find for sweetened condensed milk, but we're going to do something today a little bit different. So we are going to make our sweetened condensed milk with macadamia nut milk. And macadamia nut milk, in my opinion, is the closest flavor that I've found to cow's milk, if that's something that you really enjoy. And it really was never anything that I truly enjoyed, but I like the way the flavor profile goes when I use it. It's just closer to something that, oh, look at this, I am coming undone here. It's closer to something that I'm used to. We will deal with that later. Okay, so let's start with our sweetened condensed milk. Now we are going to use 500 milliliters of macadamia nut milk, and that goes into a pot, and we can turn this on 10. Turn it on high to get it boiling. We're not going to leave it there, but we're going to turn it on 10 to get it boiling. And if you are joining me for the first time or the 100th time, say hi. Let me know where you're from. I always love hearing where people are joining me from. Okay, so 500 milliliters of macadamia nut milk. Now, the macadamia nut milk that I get is not organic, but it is delicious, and I get it at Costco. It's called Milkadamia. Now, to that, we are going to add 3/4 of a cup. Yes, I know this is a lot. This is 170-ish grams of butter, and we are going to add that in there right away. Now let's get this butter in here. Now the butter is going to take a minute to melt, so that gives us a minute to get done the rest of the stuff that we need to do. Okay, now the next thing that we're going to need in there is our sweetener. Now we're going to use about 100 grams, give or take. Now you can sweeten this to taste, but we're going to use about 100 grams of erythritol. And this is a granular erythritol because we're going to boil this down for so long. The granular erythritol is going to work just perfectly because it will melt in that time. You could use xylitol, or if you're in the States, you could use allulose. Still waiting for that in Canada, so if any of you have our Prime Minister's ear, tell him to get on it, would you please? Okay, now we are going to use a dash of xanthan gum in this recipe, and a dash is an 1/8 of a teaspoon. Do not use more than an 1/8 of a teaspoon, and I will tell you why. Now you'll notice that I am sprinkling this in the sweetener. Xanthan gum, a little bit goes a very, very long way. And this is the second batch of this that I've made, so I know exactly how much we need. So 500 milliliters or 2 cups of macadamia nut 3/4 of a cup or 170 grams of salted butter. And I use salted butter intentionally, and I usually do, but if you want to use unsalted butter and then add your own salt, make sure you're using Redmond's real salt. Now the xanthan gum we put in the sweetener before it goes in the pot, and the reason that we do that is because when it's all mixed in the sweetener, we don't have to worry about it clumping nearly as much. So we are just going to add this in here, and you can see that the butter is not melted yet, and we'll get rid of that. Now this, as soon as we get everything all melted and boiling, I'm going to turn this down to 5, and we're just going to let this boil down. And you will see when you start boiling this down, you want it boiled down about 1/3 of the way. Half would be too much, but between 1/3 and half. But 1/3 is where I went, and it worked just beautifully. Now, if you've ever used sweetened condensed milk, you know how thick it is. And look at how thick and beautiful this is. This is just a lovely sweetened condensed milk, and it's made using macadamia nut milk. If you have anyone in your home with nut allergies, you don't want to do this. Okay, now this is almost at a boil, and the butter is still melting, and the erythritol is still melting. Okay, so we are just going to turn this down to a 4, and we're just going to let this go, and we're going to give it a stir every now and again, or somebody else might give it a stir every now and again. Now, we're making the sweetened condensed milk because we are going to make this incredible lemon cream pie for Easter dessert. So when I asked my husband what he liked for Easter dessert, first thing was a cake, and I wasn't real crazy about that, and he said, well, lemon meringue pie. So this is a different version. This has got lots of beautiful fat in it because we're making the sweetened condensed milk using lots of butter, and then we're going to be using more butter in the rest of the recipe. So let's get busy doing this. Now for the crust is toasted almond flour. Now this toasted almond flour is very important because it gives it a beautiful nutty flavor, and what we're doing is we're making the graham cracker, a keto version of the graham cracker crust. So I want you to look at how beautiful this is. I'm going to turn that down one more notch because it's just boiling a little bit more than I want it to. We don't want it boiling over. That's the last thing we need. Okay, is that going to be, yep, that's going to be good. So look at how beautiful and toasty this is, and compare that to regular almond flour. You can see the difference in there is very clear. Don't toast it too dark. If you toast it too long and it gets too dark, we're just going to turn this down a little bit more. That's getting a little bit fuzzier than we want it to. Okay, so we've got to keep watching this and make sure that it doesn't burn and it doesn't boil over. Okay, there. Now we're just going to let that keep simmering. So we get our almond flour toasted, and then the next thing that we are going to do is we're going to take the sweetener that we're going to use along with, now this is, brain went blank. 60 grams of powdered erythritol. Powdered is very, very important in this recipe because we are not going to be doing anything right off the hop to melt this. So we want to make sure that we have this powdered already so that it incorporates thoroughly and evenly in what we're doing. Now, I just added 3/4 of a teaspoon of TSL Organic Ceylon cinnamon. And now that's the real cinnamon. That's the good stuff, guys. If you haven't seen me, does this contain ligma? You know, I am not sure on what ligma is, Kirfilm. So if you can maybe tell me what that is, I would love to know, because as far as I know, it does not. But I'm not sure what it is, so I could be wrong. Okay, so the next thing that we are going to add to this is a little more than 1/4 teaspoon of Redmond's real salt. Now we're going to give this a quick stir, and then we are going to sift it. Sifting this is really important because the powdered erythritol always has lumps in it. It just does. So if we put it through a sifter, so we've got our salt, our cinnamon, our erythritol powdered, and look at all of the lumps that are in there. Now those would have been in our pie crust. And this is boiling beautifully, and it's not foaming up on us anymore, so that's awesome. And it's just going to keep boiling down, and it'll be done about the same time we are, but that's okay because we have plans. Does it contain ligma? I am going to have to Google ligma because Cure Films did not answer me, so maybe they're looking it up for me. I don't know. So now we have our cinnamon, our salt, and our sweetener in our bowl, and we're going to mix this up of a graham cracker crust. And if that's something that you've been missing in your cheesecakes or your pies or whatever else you're making, you can make graham crackers as well. But it's important to remember that if you are doing anything that you're planning on toasting, erythritol is not really your friend if you're toasting something. So now we have this all thoroughly mixed in with no lumps. No lumps of sweetener anyway. Okay, now the next thing that we are going to do is add 112 grams of melted butter. Now the melted butter is just exactly that, and that's all we need just to bring this together, and then it will be ready. Now I'm just going to get a spatula here and scrape all this beautiful butter out of here. There we go. Now as soon as this is mixed up, it is going to be ready to put in our pie tins. Now would you rather have a pie if you're serving several people, or would you rather serve tarts? Now that is a personal preference. For me, this time I'm going to do it in tart shells, and the reason that I'm doing that is because if I do it in tart shells, it's way easier to control the portions. That's just the way that is. So we're going to mix this up. Now the butter is going to incorporate in here, and we're just going to give this a stir. We've got to make sure this doesn't burn, because it definitely can. So it can sit here and boil away, but you do have to give it a stir every now and again. Okay, now we're getting this all mixed up. And now we are not going to be able to share this today, so join me on Sunday, because I will have some of these on Sunday. They will be out of the oven and ready for us to enjoy. But we're going to get them ready today. I'm not going to promise they're all going to be here, but, and you know, sometimes I try to make stuff ahead when I'm doing stuff like this. I very specifically did not want to make this ahead because I don't want that much in the house. You know, keto is not a weight loss diet, and it's really important that people understand that. Keto is an appropriate way to nourish the human body, and that's exactly what it is, and that's all it is. So you don't need to buy a whole bunch of special food. It's just eating the right way. But eating anything that is baked, that's using extra carbs, and there are carbs in almond flour, yeah, that's not something that you want to do very often. So I don't want very much here. Now you can, if you want to get really, really careful with how much you're putting in here. Now that's what I'm going to do with all of these, but I'm going to do that a little later because we need to get our lemon filling done. So that is how this is going to look when it's all finished. So we're just going to set this aside for the moment and give this a stir again. That color is already starting to get richer and more beautiful. So, okay, now the next thing that we need to do is we need to make our lemon filling. So the very first thing that we're going to do is we are going to find a little bowl right after I clean off the counter. Okay, shake that in there. Now, we've got a bowl, and I need something else. Okay, here we go. We're just going to do this in here. And we do not need the egg whites, but we do need 2 egg yolks. So we are just going to separate these using the egg separator that nature gave us. And then we're going to add those 2 eggs in there. Okay. Now we're just going to keep on keeping on here. Now if you want to cook this filling and then put it in the tart shell or pie shell, you can definitely do that. I am not going to. I'm going to put it in the oven because I want this tart shell to cook and any extra butter that's in it to incorporate into our tart. And because the filling wouldn't be hot, it wouldn't do that very easily. Oh, okay, there we go. Now, I just broke that yolk, which doesn't matter because we're going to mix this up. I wanted to make sure that I did not get any yolk in my egg whites because that is going to be the meringue later on, and you will see that on Sunday when you join me. So 10 a.m. I am hoping that they will be around on Sunday. I guess we'll see how Dell feels about that. Now we're just going to whip this up. Now you can use your mixer if you want to. I'm just trying to be nice to your ears and give my arm a little bit of a workout. And we're just going to whip this until it looks nice and light. Okay, we're going to give this a stir again. This is boiling down very nicely. Now the macadamia nut milk will take a little bit longer to boil down than whipping cream would. But for anyone who wants a non-dairy option, I guess this isn't really a non-dairy option since we added butter, but it is a way that you can use macadamia nut milk to make keto-friendly sweetened condensed milk. I guess you could use coconut oil in here, but it's not going to give you the same flavor. Okay, now you can see that this has gotten much lighter. So since this is much lighter, we are going to add lemon juice to it. Now, here's the thing with lemons. When you are zesting, now I have fresh lemons because I wanted fresh lemon zest. When you are zesting a lemon, hold the lemon underneath and your microplane on top, and all you're taking is just the yellow. You don't want that bitter pith that's underneath. So you're just taking a little bit of yellow that's all over the lemon, and we need about 2 tablespoons. So that'll take a minute, but it is well worth the effort. So if you buy lemons and you don't have a need for the lemon zest, do this anyway, and then lay it out on a piece of parchment paper. It will be dry so that you can store it in, well, depending on where you live and how humid it is, 24, 48 hours. So I always have a container of lemon zest in my spice pantry. Now this, from 1 lemon, should be about a tablespoon. Now if you get a little bit more, if you are me, that is absolutely fine. The zestier and lemonier and tangier it is, the better I like it. Now this is, yeah, you can see if I hold a tablespoon here, that's going to be about a tablespoon. So that means that we are looking for the zest of 2 lemons. So we'll do the second one, give this a little bit of a stir again. What is your favorite dessert for Easter dinner? So what does your family traditionally have for Easter? for Easter dinner? Do you have ham, turkey, beef, chicken, pork? What is it that you like? So I love hearing about other people's holiday traditions because it gives me ideas for new things for our house to try. And everything that is a tradition started out new at some point. You know, I remember the things that my mom used to make for Easter dinner and Christmas dinner, and a lot of those are still incorporated, although a keto version, they're still incorporated into our holiday meals now. So if you are willing to share with me what your family does, I would love to hear that. Do you have Easter dinner or do you have Easter brunch instead? So if you have Easter brunch, what is your favorite thing to do or to eat for Easter brunch? Okay, now we have got about another tablespoon. So we are going to put that in there. Don't want to lose any of that. And give this a stir again. And you can see this is definitely boiling down. It'll get more of a golden color in a little bit. Okay, now we have our lemons. Now we need lemon juice. Now you don't want to squeeze the lemons into the bowl that you're making this in, because you're going to end up with seeds if you do that. And because we already have our egg yolks in there, I don't want to take a chance. So this is called a Reamer, and it is a wonderful thing to have in your kitchen. If you're doing any amount of lemons, and I do, I'll buy a whole great big bunch of lemons and then I juice them and I freeze the juice in ice cubes so that when I'm making lemonade or something like this, I have lemons right there to use. Now I could be doing this into a measuring cup, but I am not, so we will measure it after we are done. So you should get, if you have good lemons, and these are not Meyer lemons. I didn't want Meyer lemons aren't in season right now anyway, but I didn't want Meyer lemons because they're definitely a milder lemon, and I want zippy and tangy and yummy and don't need sweeter. So this is just coming along beautifully, and it is going to be every bit as lovely as the other batch that I showed you a little sample of. Okay, now there is one lemon zested or juiced, and we are going to juice the next one. Now this takes a minute, and it doesn't matter if the seeds fall in because we're going to strain this afterwards. Okay, now the one thing that we do not want to lose when we strain this is the pulp that's in here, because that pulp is yummy. Okay. There we go, and one more half, and this is going to be enough lemon juice. We need about 3/4 of a cup, or 170 milliliters-ish. Now, the one thing that you have to remember about this, you can add more lemon juice. If you want this to be more tart than it is, or than it's going to be, doing it my way, this is your kitchen, you can do it your way. And the nice thing about lemons is that lemons will thicken things as well. That's how come you can use lemon juice in jam. Okay, now we are going to get, where isn't, we're just going to grab a spoon and we are going to pull these seeds out of here. And doing it this way, it takes a little bit, you know what, we're just gonna do it this way. Now the juice from 2 lemons is what we've got in here, and you can see that the pulp is definitely stopping up my strainer, but once we get the juice in there, we can pull these seeds out much easier. And then if you want to put the pulp in, you can. Now I have an electric juicer, or electric citrus juicer. I'm just going to get these seeds out. This is a really seedy lemon. Sometimes you get lemons that only have 1 or 2 seeds in it. This is definitely not that batch of lemons. So we're just going to leave this. And we are going to mix this in here. Okay, so we have our 2 tablespoons of lemon zest. We have about 3/4 of a tablespoon, or 3/4 of a cup of lemon juice. And our 2 egg yolks. And we have fresh coffee. Yeah. Now this is coffee with hazelnut, sugar-free hazelnut. Oh, that's good. Sugar-free hazelnut sweetener from Da Vinci. That is awesome. Okay, now we have this. The only thing that we're missing is our 500 milliliters of sweetened condensed milk. And this is about 500 milliliters. Now, look at this. And we're just going to give this a bit of a stir. Now this is boiled down. It started out being about 700 milliliters and it is now about 500 milliliters. And we are just going to add the whole thing in here. And grab my spatula. I do not want to waste even 1 speck of this. And you can see that it kind of gets a little bit clumpy in the jar. It's not really clumpy, it's more gelatinous is the word that I'm looking for. And that is a combination of the butter and the xanthan gum. And the xanthan gum in this particular recipe is important because it is an emulsifier and it's going to absorb all of that beautiful fat from the butter that we put in here and turn it into something that is all emulsified. Okay, now we have this all mixed up and this is ready to go in our tart shells, and we are right at the bottom of the hour. So this is the recipe. You want to join me on Sunday morning, Easter morning, or as soon as you can if you want to see how these tarts came together. And we will be looking at something else for our Easter dinner. So join me Sunday morning, 10 a.m. Mountain, and I will be here having a wonderful Easter, partly because you're here with me. So from now until then, do your very best to live your best version of this shining life. That's what I'm going to do, and I look forward to seeing you Sunday morning, 10 a.m. Mountain. Bye for now.